Here, on the Taiwan coastline, Mr. Tsai recalls another reason. His long, some say heroic, opposition to KMT rule. Off this coastline is an island where Mr. Tsai was imprisoned by the KMT.
We chose the government to treat us the same as the mainlanders. We wanted human rights and democracy for the Taiwanese. But the Kuomintang assassinated our leaders and planned to kill all of Taiwan's elite.
Mr. Tsai spent 12 years imprisoned on Green Island, where he was jailed with thousands of other dissidents who opposed the KMT government's martial rule. He was sentenced to death twice, but somehow survived.
When I was on Green Island, I vowed, if I ever left this prison alive, I would fight injustice and look after the families of those who died here.
Mr. Tsai is a man of his word. He has turned his home into a sanctuary for children of government opponents. As the pro-democracy movement grows, so do the dangers for those who support it. Mr. Tsai has 4 bodyguards posted outside his home. All the windows are made from bulletproof glass. The children of dissidents are safe and happy here, and that makes Mr. Tsai happy. But Mr. Tsai's charity also goes out to old adversaries. By Chinese tradition, the elderly are cared for by the extended family. The KMT soldiers who came to Taiwan with Chiang Kai-shek left family behind. Mr. Tsai, who was treated so cruelly by the KMT, donates money to this old age home to keep it going. And he visits his old enemies regularly.
They are poor people. They can't even survive without places like this. The government should treat them fairly and look after them. After all, they believed and followed the Kuomintang to Taiwan in the first place.
For all its wealth and high-tech industries, Taiwan lags badly when it comes to welfare programs. In this land of the $17 billion trade surplus, there are no government programs to care for the aged or for the needy. One government opponent is to learn at these fish markets this morning just where the KMT has been directing its dollars. There are 20 million people in Taiwan. 18 million call themselves Taiwanese. Only 2 million mainlanders. Yet Professor Lin Shu-yi, a Taiwanese, has little chance of achieving what he's here for. All these years after declaring martial law, the KMT is allowing elections, and Professor Lin Shu-yi is trying to contest them under KMT rules. This morning, as he campaigns at the fish markets, there is more evidence the odds are against him. Professor Lin knows better than to be encouraged. Those who object loudest often have most to hide. During the election campaign, the KMT has been, quite simply, buying votes, inviting people to sup and sip on free food and drinks in return for pledges to vote KMT. Some Taiwanese boast that it's possible to go to a different banquet every night and never pay for a thing. For the KMT candidates, the costs are huge, but so are the stakes. They've had power for 40+ years. How do they ward off demands for a parliament of the people, for the people, and by the people? For this election, the elderly KMT lawmakers have come up with rules that do the job nicely. Only 1/3 of the parliamentary seats will be up for grabs. The remaining 2/3 will still be held by the KMT's lifetime parliamentarians. So whatever the election outcome, the KMT will retain control. For the first elections in 40 years, the KMT is going through all the motions, yet finds it hard to drum up enthusiasm, even among the party faithful. Most of the businessmen at this rally will claim to be opposition DPP supporters, but fearing government backlash, most will also make donations to the KMT. Tonight, they've come to hear the opposition's most powerful speaker. Her name is Hu Yin Mong, and when she denounces parliamentarians, she's doing so with intimate knowledge. She's the daughter of one of the KMT's most senior members.
Lifetime parliamentarians still believe they are the legitimate representatives for millions of Chinese on the vast mainland. For them, the government of Taiwan is only temporary. Their stay here only temporary. This way of thinking has caused all the problems we have in Taiwan today. They only think about their salary, about money. Why is making a profit the major goal instead of pursuing what's good for our country?
Hu is addressing a vast crowd, but for Frank Yu, the tennis racket manufacturer, it's as if she's talking just to him.
How can we make Taiwan a better place to live? How can we create a bright future? I call out to all of you. If you really love this country, then please change your lifestyle.
Hu Yin Mong has the crowd eating out of her hand, not just because she's turned against her own. She also happens to be Taiwan's most celebrated film actress. She had it all: fame, beauty, money. What she didn't have was fulfillment.
I was never satisfied being an actress. I felt I was just a tool for whatever the director wanted to express. And gradually, I came to realize that I must think for myself, express my own ideas, not someone else's.
Hu Yin Mong's family album is a potted history of KMT experience on Taiwan. Hu is little girl, brought up in place parents regard only as temporary home. Brought up with a lie. Her father was member for Nanking in Old Chinese Parliament. So on Taiwan, he remained member for Nanking, though his electorate was 1,000 kilometres away, and he wasn't allowed there. Hu believes the last years of her father's life have been a total waste. His cause, futile.
Although my father became too ill to participate in politics, he still kept his position. Now, I have awakened to the inequities of our political situation. Now I have my own clear view.
Those views are in sharp contrast to those of the man she's meeting today. Like her father, he's a member of parliament. Like 2/3 of the Taiwan legislature, a parliamentarian for life. Mr. Liang is a close family friend, and Hu is meeting him at the Imperial Palace Museum, where are housed the treasures of ancient China. To Mr. Liang, the museum, and the Chinese culture preserved in it, speak eloquently to doubters like Hu about the continued importance of the KMT. That, however, is just a happy accident of history. In the last days before his defeat by Mao Zedong, Chiang Kai-shek had ordered his troops to ransack museums and private collections. As Mao and Zhou Enlai were celebrating victory, the KMT were taking with them to Taiwan the plunder, the trainloads of treasures now on display in the museum. Ironically, what was one of history's great thefts in fact saved the collection from what could have been total destruction at the hands of these people, Mao's Red Guard. The insanity of the Cultural Revolution was to arts, literature and learning a scorched earth policy. Anything remotely linked to the remotely bourgeois past was destroyed. The Red Guards couldn't get their hands on the collection. With what we now know of their fanaticism, that seems fortunate. Huyen Mong cares that the collection was saved, but not with the passion of Mr. Liang. She was born in Taiwan. These are foreign treasures. To her generation, the KMT, like Chiang Kai-shek, have become museum pieces. When Huyen Mong reflects on the KMT's rule, she despairs at the missed opportunities.
Because of our economic success, people don't have to worry about food, clothing and shelter. Materially, life is comfortable. We can enjoy our prosperity. But this wealth hasn't brought us any security. On the contrary, these riches have brought disorder to our society. I do not think we have been truly successful. We've made too many mistakes. Something must be done.
In Taiwan, it is a time of introspection. Frank Yu is returning to his birthplace, Tainan, an hour from Taipei. The morning is filled with questions. Can he satisfy his Japanese client? Will labour shortages sink his business? And more profoundly, should he involve himself in the current political debate? Searching for answers, he has returned to his roots.
When I was a child, almost everyone in my village worked in the sugarcane industry. My father owned a factory as a subcontractor to the Japanese. But after the war, when the KMT took over, they forced him to close his factory and they took all his land. When he died, we were left with nothing. It fell to my eldest brother and sister to support the family. Thanks to them, I was able to go to college.
Behind Frank's tale of tragedy is another story that reflects better on the KMT. Frank's father was part of the hated landlord class, which the KMT dismantled in the 1950s to win support among the peasants. His and other large holdings were appropriated by the government and divided into some 800,000 farmer-owned plots, the biggest, by law, 3 and a bit hectares, or 7.5 acres. The peasants are now better off. That's why there's no hero's welcome home for Frank.
There's nothing left where my father's factory used to be. But seeing this emptiness, I feel encouraged to work hard to rebuild what's been destroyed. Because I started out with nothing anyway, I no longer need to feel afraid. There must be a way to reach a new world.
Somehow, somewhere on the train ride home, Frank's high ideals have deserted him. It's Frank the pragmatist who's turned up for a business meeting.
I've got 3 questions. What do you expect from this new partnership? Who is really going to oversee the business? And how much profit am I going to make?
Frank has been invited to invest in a new cement company. Again, typical of the business scene here, All those involved are native Taiwanese. As he meets with his prospective partners, Frank's hard-headed approach gives